welcome back to People Are People. I missed last week's podcast because life happens out of nowhere, and that's what happened. We were going along just about our regular everyday business, and life happened. So last Saturday, my mom went out with her girlfriends, and they had girls' night, and they had lobster tails. And these women are all in their 80s, and they're so cute. And my mom went to sleep at a normal time, and apparently she woke up at like 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom, and she had a hard time walking, but she is who she is. So she continued to go to the bathroom, get back in bed, and go back to sleep. When she woke up in the morning, she just went about her day. Hair, makeup, got dressed, made her coffee. She spilled a little. And then when she was on the phone with her best friend, at like 8 a.m, she said, "You're slurring your words." And she's like, "I'm fine." So she obviously knew, but when I'm 82, I want to make my decisions as well. So my sister texted her and asked if she wanted to go to dinner, and she was on a group chat with a different sister. And my mom said, "If I can walk," which was weird. But my other sister didn't read the message until about 10, and she went over into her room and saw her, and she's like, "What are you talking about if you can walk?" And she said, "I can't really walk, da-da-da." And she talked for a minute, and she could see that her speech was different. So she calls us all on, video call, and she's like, "We need to go to the emergency room." And my mom's like, drinking her coffee, "I'm not going to the emergency room." So we, on Sunday mornings, go to breakfast. And so she's like, "I'm not going to the hospital until we go to breakfast." So we all got dressed a little early, went out to breakfast, and then she went to the emergency room. She just held our arm walking into the restaurant. She had her oatmeal and coffee, and then she spent the day in the emergency room. They did determine that she had a small stroke, but based on the location, it impacted some of her physical abilities. So, but, she doesn't really skip a beat. So they admitted her, and by the next day, some of her mobility was coming back, and she hadn't lost all of it. It was just she was weak in some areas, and her speech was odd, but that's already coming back. So now it's a week later. She was there. She went to rehab. She's almost done there. She'll go home and she'll have therapy at home, because she still needs to get strong, but she's amazing. So the night that this happened, she had a dream about my dad, who was her literal absolute soulmate. They were each other's. And she's like, "Yeah, and I had a dream. Dad had a young girlfriend or a young wife, and they had a baby." And I was like, "Well, yeah, Dad was obviously trying to piss you off, so you didn't try to come there." I was like, "Good try, by the way, trying to get out of here, because we're not ready. So slow your roll." But she's cute, and she's, I'm like, it's like when you have that dream that your husband cheated, and you wake up and you're so mad at them. My sister, I swear, I think her husband got her flowers, one of them. But he's like, "I didn't cheat. It was your dream." But my husband's like, I'm not even entertaining that crap. But I said to my mom, I'm like, that's what this is equivalent to. Because she was like so upset. Not really, but she was like mad at him. So, we had some really good experiences in the hospital. We had a pretty good emergency experience. We had, when she was admitted, we had mostly a good experience. There was one, first of all, my sister stayed over a couple nights. She then got the flu. So she's been down for the count. This is like a super flu. She's been down for the count since then. So poor thing. So we're trying to like bring her a meal here or there, because she's locked up in the house, and then take care of my mom. But she's being well cared for in therapy and whatever. So my sister had stayed over, and my mom had to go for an MRI at like 4:30 in the morning. So they both were up most of the night. So I went early in the morning after my kids got on the bus, and I was just doing work in the dark. The TV was on. I was my little TV, on my phone rather. I was watching my show, and the headphones were in, pitch black. Everybody, they're sleeping. Everyone is so happy. I'm, doing my work. The phone in the room, like, who uses those? Do they need those anymore? Rings so loud. I actually believe it could have woken somebody dead in the morgue. So loud. I dropped my computer on the floor, like could not get there fast enough. Some person not from around here, very far away, um, because they were calling me like the way that they said, instead of like Mrs. whatever, they were like, is this ma'am so and so? It was like strange. And I'm like, who are you? Why are you calling here? Um, and why are you waking everyone? And also, like, I don't want to suck, but like, you're calling a stroke unit. Like, they probably can't talk. So it's kind of mean to call a stroke unit. And she's like, oh, I'm from registration or case man, whatever she is. And I'm like, you've already been in here. I've had 3 different people that I've spoken to come here during the day, like it's 7 a.m. So I wasn't that nice about it. And then, but anyway, so then I wanted my mom to have a shower because I felt like, she was in the emergency and it's kind of gross. And you just always feel better when you're like fresh showered. So I had asked them a couple times, like, hey, she can do it herself, but like, can you just, be aware and check her out? So they were like, yeah, yeah. So the next day, one lady was like, yeah, tomorrow. So the next day I saw this aide who we had spoken to, and I was like, can you just monitor her when she takes her shower? Okay. Oh, I'm so busy today. Okay. So that was like at 9. So at 1, I was sassy and I was like, um, like, we don't need much time. You don't have to wash your hair, but can you help us out? So she comes in there, and I like when you're wearing like a hospital gown and then you have a second gown that's like a robe. So I was like, can you go get the second gown? And she was like, maybe she didn't like me telling her. I would go get it if you tell me where to get it. I'm not ordering you around, but I had already told you before you started that I like her to have 2. So she has some, modesty. Thanks. Um, anyways, after the shower, we thanked her, but she went and told on me. So this assistant manager comes in and she's like, somebody said she was uncomfortable. I was like, oh, that was probably because of me. But my sister will always say when I'm wrong. Like, we don't really have that any shame in that regard. And she was like, oh no, she was fine. I was like, so it was just funny. Like, I get in trouble everywhere I go. But it is really important that you have like a supportive team, first of all, that works there. But second, if you're not advocating, if people go into the hospital alone, it's kind of sad and it's a little scary. And I used to do this for my grandmother, but you have to advocate for them the entire time. I mean, we asked a million questions. Why isn't the therapist in today? Where's the speech therapist? I mean, we had to ask and then they would remind them. But if we weren't there, it would have been fine, but not nearly as good as it could have been. Also, this gentleman, it's so strange. And we still have not really discovered who he is. He said he was a doctor. He was wearing the same outfit both nights. I wasn't there. Sometimes they're lucky when I'm not there because I have a big mouth. But it was almost, we're not sure. The first day he came and he said he was not here officially. Okay, then don't come here till you're official. And when he came back the next day, he basically said the same things. And we really still haven't figured it out. But it seems like he was there to coerce her into going to a particular rehab after. She was really lucky that she was so advanced that she qualified for this fast track rehab. But it's such a weird thing. Like, what if she's an older woman alone? What if she doesn't have her faculties? First of all, it's the stroke unit. So they're probably also recovering and there's some brain stuff going on for a lot of them. And why are you like a high pressure salesman? Oh, I'm not trying to tell you where to go. My mom says, I already know where I'm going. I'm going to XYZ. He's like, oh yeah, I was there years ago when they opened. Don't care. She's like, well, that's where I'm going to go. We had already done that work, And he's like, oh, okay, I'm not telling you where to go. And he still never said the name of a place, but it was very evident that he would have liked to have been able to give his direction and opinion. And I just think it was like so uncomfortable. But when I did say something, when the woman came in and said that I made the other woman uncomfortable, we did mention that. And so she was very receptive to our concerns, because I do think it's easy to sometimes take advantage of people when they look older, they see an age, on there. And I remember going through this with my grandma. She was in rehab after she broke her hip. Oh no, she broke her femur. And she was in rehab, and I don't remember if I've told this story, but I didn't want her on, I being all of us, didn't want her on this particular painkiller. And I know she was in a lot of pain, and I know it was the most effective, but we were hoping there was something similarly effective that didn't make her coked out. She's supposed to do therapy, and she's like conked out sleeping. So It was all over the hospital records. Please don't give her XYZ. And we get to the next, facility, which is literally next door. And I go in to have her, like, to check on her before she goes to therapy, and she's passed out in the chair. Like, and I'm like, she's not even like on this planet, like coked out. And I was like, what's going on? Oh, we gave it to her. Do you read the chart? So this gentleman, this doctor, was a hard of hearing doctor, and he tried to play that card. I'm the mother of a special needs child. It's great to have that card in your back pocket in line at Disney. They see your kid acting up or feeling impatient, you can play your card. I said, it's written all over the chart. Why would you give her that? Well, she was in pain. I said, and I don't want her in pain, but I guarantee there's another one on the planet beside that one, anything. He's like, well, maybe it's because of my hearing, my hearing disability. That was it for me. I was like, hold on a minute. You don't get to pull the card out of your pocket when it's convenient. Are you the doctor or are you the deaf doctor? Which one are you today? I said, I am a special needs mother. I'm the mother of a special needs child. You don't get to do that. You don't get to go through life and want to be typically, accepted, and then use that when you're wrong. You're not wrong because of your hearing disability. You're wrong because you were wrong. So it got ugly. And then I had this, she had a nurse that was hearing me, say this. And she probably should have just stayed out of it, but she didn't want to. And she started being a little snarky the next few days. And one day I called and she was like, a little short with me. And finally I said, Julie, I don't know. Her name was Julie. I don't know, what problem you have with me. I was like, that's okay. Don't take it out on her. I said, but you haven't been doing the things that she needs you to do. And I said, listen, I don't wish anything bad on you at all. I just wish on you and your children and your children's children the same kind of nurse that you are. So anytime you have a nurse, I want them to be just like you. Okay. Okay. And I hadn't said that. My grandma's been gone 10 years. I hadn't said that. So for like 11 years. And then throughout this process, my sister, when she got the flu, she like woke up at the hospital like on day 2 and she was coughing. And she's like, this is a really weird cough, but it was just a strange cough. So she goes to the urgent care down the street. We actually told her, go now. And they said it was bronchitis. Ironically, today, a week later, I spoke to someone who went to the same urgent care, same protocol, same bronchitis. So apparently they have a theme there. But ironically, I keep hearing that this flu A, super flu, starts out bronchial. People think it's bronchitis. I have no medical anything. So you say bronchitis, I believe you. So she went there and they gave her like a inhaler and a whatever pill and whatever, a coughing pill and no antibiotic or anything like that. Okay, great. So the next day she goes home. She doesn't go back to the hospital. She's coughing. The next day she was like sick as a dog. Stuck in bed. I mean, full flu. So I dropped off. They have this new, well, to me new, it's like an A, B, and a COVID test all in one. So she's like waiting for like, it's not as fun as waiting for your pregnancy test. So she has the thing and it says flu A. So, and now I'm talking to people who are saying, yeah, flu A starts that way. Like it's this weird cough and then blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I was still taking care of my mom, but now we want to take care of our sister and we're doing our best. And I called the urgent care and I'm like, hey, my sister was there yesterday. This is what happened. I'm not sure why, it's not protocol, but you didn't give her a flu test. And so, but I dropped off one for her. I can send you a picture. You just saw her. She's right. And I called them recently because they only gave me 3 days of antibiotic and it wasn't quite gone. I called them and I'm like, and they're like, oh, you should have had 6. So it was no problem. So I thought the same thing. So I called and I was like, hey, she was here like yesterday morning at this time. Here's her name. And the nurse on the phone was like, I'm going to go to bat for you, which is so sweet, but also like, why do you have to go to bat? This is not. And I was like, I'll send you a picture of the flu test. She's so sick. I don't want to be in the car with her. I don't want to make her drive. And I just got home from taking my mom to the new rehab and everything else. And this pharmacy closed at 9 and it's like 8:15. So I'm like, I need you to get this approved. Call in the Tamiflu because I don't know if you've ever had Tamiflu, but it is a gift. So she's like, I'm going to go to bat for you. I'm sorry, the doctor won't do it. Why? Well, because he didn't administer the flu test. Yeah, but why didn't he? you know? I said, I'll send you a picture. I don't have time to drive her there and I don't want to be with her and I'm not letting her drive. So wouldn't do it. So I got him on the phone and he was like, no, I'm like, you've never had like partners and you're in a practice that like, because if I call my doctor, his partner will for sure. It was like the weirdest. And I was like, that's okay. And I said it. I was like, listen, we all have to do what feels best for us. I'm so disappointed that you can't do this. She was in yesterday. You saw her symptoms. We took a test. She feels worse. I can send you evidence of the test. I was like, you're fine. You're right. I'm just telling you that I don't wish any ill on you. I feel you're completely wrong. With no medical background, I feel you're wrong as a human. He knew what was going on with my mother. He knew we were in a dire situation. I'm asking for Tamiflu. I said, people aren't like coking out on Tamiflu. Okay. It's not a controlled substance. It's not like, okay. I said, but I just want to tell you that I wish for you and your family a doctor just like you. That's all I wish. I don't wish you any ill. I just wish you, like, what do they say? Have the day you deserve. Maybe I'm not nice for saying that. I don't care. Like, that's how I felt. Because when you're at your lowest or at a lower point, you want lift. You want helpers. And it was right, Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers in a bad situation. So that brings me to my mom. People are amazing. Like, unlike that doctor, people come through. She's gotten so many calls and texts. She can't even keep up. And texting is still a little bit hard for her. So she's working on it. And then talk texting, obviously, her voice is different. It's coming. But so she's like, I don't know. So we're so excited when we get a little text that's like, we can try to figure it out. And she's getting pretty good. But her friends have called. Actually, one friend who's so cute that went to dinner for those lobster tails the night before. He's in the hospital too, but she just got out. But like, I'm like, can you guys just be boring? But the thing is friends and then her dinner club, who's like her hairdresser and our dear family friends, they went to 2 times. They came to dinner with us at the rehab. Like, people are so cute and so good that I try to remember when people are being gross that most people are good, but there are gross people. We go to this Coney Island restaurant, the one we went to brunch. And when I told so I kept like rushing her that day when she was eating the oatmeal, not rushing her, but rushing like our waitress friend. And I would be like giving her a look and I'm like, yeah, can we ever check? Like, I didn't want to. So when I went to pay, she's like, what is going on? I'm like, oh, she had a stroke and we want to get her to the hospital. She starts like hysterically crying. I'm like, bring it together, get it together. You're okay. So she's been so cute. She texts, she asks about her. Everybody is like, how is she doing? Blah, blah, blah. What was so funny at the emergency was like, they need to do the swallow test. And I say this, and she failed the swallow test. Cause they gave her cold water and she like choked on it for a second. And they were like, oh no, she failed. And I'm like, she just had like oatmeal with raisins and nuts and coffee. Like, we can take it again tomorrow, but like, she ate. So that's old news. Because she's a tough cookie. But so there's this, like, these 2 older ladies. One's quite a bit older and then one's probably a little younger than my mom. And they are always there when we're there. So we've become friends. I've made them like little necklaces and I did this like bracelet campaign and they bought them. Like, they're so cute. So my mom, when the older one was in the hospital, she had broken her ribs. She had fallen. And I don't remember why I had her daughter's number from one day at lunch. For the cemetery. I was like, we were just talking and so I had texted her. So I was like, we heard your mom fell. Do you need anything? Is she okay? And my mom like called her at rehab. It's really cute. So when she came back to the restaurant a couple weeks later, like several weeks, my mom goes running over and, are you okay? Da, da, da. And this woman's like hilarious. She's like super raunchy. She's like 95 and she's like, we're like, oh, how are you? And she's like, all my men say I'm great. It's like hilarious, bizarre, but so funny. So my mom had gone over to her when she came back, from not feeling well. And I want, when you get out of the hospital, you're like a little bit weaker. And so I've seen her over the last few weeks, like, get strong again. And she's so cute. She's like not going anywhere anytime soon. But it was so funny because, so my mom, when she got out of the hospital, she was supposed to go straight to rehab, but she's like, I'm going home. I want to go to my own bathroom. I want to brush my teeth at my house. I want to freshen up my makeup at my house. I want to pack a bag. So we stopped home for like an hour, packed some clothes and went to rehab. When rehab, they don't have, it's like for people who have like a knee replacement, like it's like a short-term rehab. They don't have therapy on Sundays. So yesterday I was like, you're not going to sit here all day. There's no therapy. So I picked her up and we went to the restaurant. So in the meantime, these people had all heard about it from our favorite waitress and the owners and whatever. So they come running over. And I hear like the two ladies like talking. Now she doesn't drive anymore, the one with the broken ribs. So the little friend that drives her. So I hear her, I'm walking past from paying and I hear her go, yeah, I'm going to go say hi. And she goes, I know what you're doing. I'm coming too. It was like really cute. So they go over and they run over to my mom. And it was like such a funny thing, like this reciprocation of like, we don't really know each other, but we sort of do because we always sit at this table next to each other, and they had like reserved our table because they knew I was coming. So, like they're very sweet, and um, it was just so sweet. Like they both have been through something recently, but they both wanted to make sure they were okay. And so even when you're going through your own hard time, you can still be there for someone else's, and it's super cute. When I had my surgery, I think I've talked about this. I had a sciatica problem, and I took too many Advil, and I told my doctors I was taking too many Advil. On an empty stomach, walking the floors in Hoka gym shoes and pajamas all night long. I'm in my pajamas right now. You're welcome. And I was I was in severe pain all the time. So I took too many Advil, and then I went to this foot doctor and he gave me Celebrex. And I didn't know that you're not supposed to take those at the same time. And so I ruptured my stomach driving down the street one day and pulled over and called 911 and whatever. And I think I mentioned this, the ambulance people were like, they just like disregarded my discomfort and my genuine pain. And it's just funny how you have a choice when you're faced with someone who's struggling, and you can go either way. You can have compassion. You can assume that they're not just here to be dramatic. I'm a mother of two, late to get my kid at the movie. I'm not calling you from a college campus parking lot because I'm bored. I have stuff to do. I had to make my husband go get my kid. Like you don't have to, you should just give people the benefit of the doubt and not treat them like they're over, reacting. And so that's the thing is like you see these really, that's why I always say I go through life and like cherry pick the good ones, because you see these like cute little ladies running over and these waitresses, and they're like, and the people that are like emailing and calling and texting, it's so cute, like to make sure she's okay because she's the best. But it's just such a funny thing, like why is there still ugly in this time when you should be so positive and bringing each other along? But I'm forcing myself to remember that you don't have to focus on that, because really people are so great. Like we have friends that we haven't even been able to get back with. So I'll take her phone and say, okay, this person called 10 times. She's calling me. She's calling you. We're so busy. Let's text her and tell her how you're doing. And then you forget to tell people just because like you're so wrapped up. And so it's funny. I was last night, literally in the middle of the night, I'm like, did we tell this one aunt? Like, I just didn't. And I was going to say to my mom, like, have you talked to her? And my cousin, who's going to help like arrange the at-home care, so we've been in touch, she happened to call me about something else. And she's like, wait, don't you know her? She's here, so-and-so, at the airport in Florida coming home to Michigan. And I'm like, go tell her right now, because I thought of her in the middle of the night. Go over there, remind her who you are, and tell her about my mom. And she was like, why didn't any of your kids call me? Because we're so wrapped up, but we're still like, you're still important. We want you to know you're important. And it's funny because it's not really funny, but when my dad died, we didn't tell this, like he owns a store that my parents go to. We didn't tell him it was also COVID, and we didn't tell him that my dad died. And we went in, when after maybe 6 months later, 4 months later, and he was like, okay, how's he doing? And we were like, oh God, he like still has not forgiven us. Like he's so hurt. And we were like, nobody came to the funeral. I mean, 20 people were there outside. This would have been standing room only, but we were outside. It was graveside. It was not what it would have been in a regular setting, in a regular, if the world wasn't in a pandemic. But then when my good friend's son recently passed away, her young son, I mean, till forever, I will never forget, that she said that she sent me this text, and she was like, this is so heartbreaking. I can't call you and tell you. And it was like that evening. And then she texted to me, and I was like, I'm still like, what? But the thing is like, that reminded me that you have to remember who to tell. you have to remember, and obviously with a death, you sort of go through the phone book and you talk to your family and you're like, okay, who do we have to tell before it gets on Facebook, before it's in the paper, the obituary. But with this kind of thing, especially because she's doing so great, part of it is like, well, maybe they should know, because maybe if they see some differences, they aren't going to like, what happened to that lady? But she's also getting strong so fast. Like we joke, like the first day, like we were like, touch your nose, and she was like, and then the next day she's like, look, she like woke up one day and and she's coming along. But I do think that there's a line we have to try to remember, like include the people that are important, express your gratitude because people are amazing, and then the gross ones, like tell them really quickly how gross they are, but try not to dwell on it. And I'm not great at that. I am great at being sassy. And what I always say, and I said it again, I said it to my cousin today, because the person who was calling for the home care, she was very sweet, but like you have to be right. You have to be like accurate when you're in certain professions, I feel. And she called and she was like, okay, hi, so you want like a nurse and a physical therapist? And I was like, okay, no. Does your paper say it should be like speech, physical therapy, and OT? No, thank you on the nurse. These are things that we've already discussed before the order was placed. And she's like, oh yeah, that's on the order. Okay, so are you sure it's on the order and you're misspeaking? Or I was like, I said, if you can just like do me a favor and only tell me what's on the paper. Because already now my confidence in you is lacking now. She's like, okay, fine. And she was only calling to verify the address. She's like, okay, the therapists are going to call you tonight to verify what time they're starting tomorrow. And I was like, okay, so no one's starting tomorrow because she's not getting out of therapy. Start of care is Wednesday. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's here. So stop just saying, and she tells me the date. And I'm like, right, that date is Wednesday. I was like, please do me a favor. I'm like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but please don't do that. Only tell me what you're reading. Don't just make up things and throw it around, because I'm banking on what you're saying. Is someone calling me tonight? Now it's 8:21 and no one has called me yet. So my guess is they call you the night before start of care, which would make sense. But so I text my cousin, because recently we were talking about when I was in the hospital. I'm like, oh, I'm sassy right now. I'm being sassy to these, so-and-sos. And I do try. And we always express our gratitude. But if people are being lazy or whatever, I don't like it. And I'm going to tell you, like, do better. So, and she was like, oh, I was just telling my daughter about that. So I text her and I was like, oh, maybe you should call your daughter and have her give me some training, because the woman that you sent me to at your place that does the home care, and we really want to use her place. And it's funny because the rehab recommended it too. So it was like a double positive. I was like, I said, and she was like, she's really sweet. I'm like, oh, she sounds really sweet, but I need thorough. And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna tell my boss. And I'm like, that's up to you. I'm just venting because I don't like it. I was like, here's the thing. And I say it all the time, and I've said it here before. I am not for everyone. I'm not. And I'm totally content with that. I am not for everyone, but you would want me on your team. And I totally maintain that. If you want something done, hey. And that's why the cemetery project sucks so much, because I'm used to getting stuff done, and I'm up against, I don't want to say losers, but I am. And so I'm up against people that don't want to allow change. And they certainly don't want to assist with it or allow me to assist with it. So, but yeah, you'd want me on your team, even though I'm sassy and sometimes bratty, because my heart is in the right place. I'm intolerant of crap. So, the moral of the story is life happens out of nowhere. Life happened out of nowhere last week. We are getting back to ourselves. I'm so excited for my mom to come home and sleep in her own bed tomorrow night. I'm going to get her a little stool in case she needs to climb up, because she's not very big and her bed is very tall. But otherwise she's just going to do it. And she's excited to get home and practice putting her eyelashes on and doing her eyeliner, because she's gorgeous. She looks like Sharon Osbourne, but cuter. And I learned how to back comb her hair, but don't worry, she's mastered it again. But we're just basking in how lucky we are that this didn't end differently, and that we're already seeing improvement and she's overcoming. And like I said, don't try to get out of here so fast. And I do think it like reminded her that there's no rush. She wasn't in a rush to get out of here. She was like, okay. I mean, listen, she knows when she leaves, she gets to see my dad. And I see the temptation there. He's the best. But don't rush, girl, because we need you. So life happens out of nowhere, and how you react and your thoughts and your expressions and your interactions, guilty, those matter. And so life is going to happen, but just do your best and take it day by day. People are people. See you soon.